about faith. What is true wisdom that one acquires by the end of one's life? It is one's awareness of the divine nature of all things. But alas, this wisdom seems an absurd superfluity to many people. Without the bridge with the Lord, people catch not his rays, but the rays of Satan, who lurks nearby in the world, and to hear him one does not need to make any spiritual efforts, as it is in the case with the Lord. People who have eyes and ears, let them hear and see their Heavenly Father. To do this, they do not need to look at the sky, searching for the face of the Lord there. They should look at the earth, where he has scattered many pieces of evidence of his existence. To have faith, one does not need to see the reality of the Lord, for it is impossible for a human being. Faith comes from love for everything created by him, when suddenly one is overtaken by the idea that everything in nature is done so skillfully and interwoven, so it cannot be accidental. Such inspiration becomes the basis of faith. Here is a parable about it. A man saw a horse eating grass and thought, "How does it know that its food is grass?" Next time, he saw a bird making a nest and thought, "Who taught it to put twigs together like this and not another way?" The third time, he saw the bird circling over the horse and catching gadflies. "How does it know that it should do that?" thought the man. And there was only one small step to be made from these thoughts to faith. But the trouble is that people do not ask themselves such questions. The world seems to them so clever all by itself. Faith as knowledge is the highest level of the soul's development. Confidence in the existence of the invisible world, the spiritual one, the creative one, and the one which renders help is much stronger than the faith which is full of doubts or blind faith. Blindness is a terrible thing. It cripples the soul, since such a belief is either an infusion or a self-suggestion, but not knowing the truth. Blind faith also kills everything around it, because it is akin to rabid fanaticism, when everything which does not conform to it is destroyed. And the truth is a great knowledge, coming from the world of the invisible, being grasped by the soul rather than by human mind, which is limited in its ability or sense organs. And this knowledge becomes a great joy, as it is not the mind, but the soul which can experience joy. And it is in getting to know on earth what it knew in heaven. Everything which has been created is an incarnation of the Lord's plan. This is a parable about it. A man had been listening to the voice of his reason during all his life. He thought about everything his soul had told him and rejected it all, for his analysis showed that is not possible. And when the man heard the voice of the prophet, he shouted, "He is a liar, because what he says is not possible." "Why do you call him a liar?" asked the people who believed the prophet. "His words cannot describe existent things, because they are contrary to the laws described by science," the denier said. "Does science describe heaven?" the people asked. "Heaven can only be described by the soul which had been there. But the brain came to the world for the first time and is made of mortal flesh, and therefore it has no right to judge whether an immortal soul is right or wrong." The moral of the parable is that carnal science ridicules prophecies as it rests on false grounds. A limited reason cannot judge the infinite knowledge of the soul. So an ant laughs at a fish living in the water. That cannot be, it says, because in water one suffocates and dies. Quite a number of people consciously separate knowledge from feelings, and that is wrong. It is not the reason, but the soul which learns. If, in a certain phenomenon, it suddenly discovers the place for this phenomenon in the general presentation of the incredible and harmonious order of the universe, the shock of this discovery makes the gained knowledge a part of faith, and faith as knowledge, and knowledge as faith, is the main pillar of a human soul. Continually rushing to heaven, and knowing that earth is a kind of an amazing manifestation of heaven, the soul finds peace and joy, and no ordeals on earth will make it lose this joyful sense of belonging to the great house of wisdom, and immutable laws established by the universal mind. The soul needs to feel a part of this vast mechanism, acting for the purpose of the light, for the existence of the universe full of spiritual beings. Without this sense of belonging and personal necessity, life in its manifested form seems meaningless to the soul, and man, without finding his true vocation on earth, cannot consider himself happy. For happiness is to feel oneself a necessary part of the universe, and all the necessary is endued with supreme joy in order to enable it to achieve plenty. That is why, being shocked by any particle of the created universe, you thereby suffuse your soul with those rays which illuminate its existence in the world of other dimensions. "What have you got in your hands?" a sheep asked its master when he came to the barn during the night. "A candle," the man answered. "It burns, and I see what I need in the dark." The sheep asked him, "Why do you need a candle, if you can see what you need more clearly in the light of the day?" The master laughed. "You have solved the problem which I could not solve all my life so easily." The moral of the parable is that in the light of the truth of the Lord, everything becomes as plain as day. And you are trying to see something by the candlelight of your mind. Wait for the day, meaning let the light of God into your souls, and all will become clear. And the rays of your souls will become unquenchable lights inside you. And your life will be illuminated by the light which never fades. Those who do not doubt about materiality being the basis of life do not need faith. They regard spirituality in themselves as an ability of the flesh to produce some sort of other impulses apart from purely biological, brutal ones. The flesh for these people is an extraordinary material which is endued with numerous functions. For this reason, it makes no sense to convince them about the primacy of the Spirit. The Spirit is invisible, imperceptible, but the flesh is real, and man defines for himself what is primary and what is secondary in him. Faith is the knowledge of the soul, but not of the mind. Wisdom is the knowledge of the soul, which is equal to the knowledge of the mind. There is no contradiction between them, so man is wise. Wisdom begins with faith rather than with the mind. So enjoy the true light enclosed in your souls, and do not be afraid of either it or the mockery of fools. The wise will understand you, the fools will laugh at you. Whose response to your faith will you appreciate more? An ornate cup said to an old pitcher, "A great man will put me to his lips, and your fate will be thrown onto the scrap heap." The old pitcher replied, "No, I am happier than you are, because I quench the thirst of many people, but they remember about you only when they need to show their superiority to others. You quench only the petty vanity of man, but not the true thirst that does not scorn even a simple crock." The moral of the parable is that thirst for the truth can be quenched only from one spring, the wise greatness of life. The cup of scientific knowledge is only an elegant vessel full of human searches and delusions. Only the soul has true knowledge, but not the mind, which is limited in its capabilities. That is why search for the truth with your soul, without any fear of the mockery of book-wise know-alls. Their limited brains cannot accept that faith is the knowledge of the soul. Let them drink out of their cups and have pity for them, for your drink is the truth, and their drink is just the unwise knowledge of the brain. Wisdom is a connection to the world of heaven, the great world, the world of extraordinary transformations. How does wisdom become a part of human life? How does the limited human mind start to contain the light of the universal truth? You do not need to put a bridle on everything that comes to your mind. The truth has no restrictions, and therefore the soul discovers the most unknown and definitely impossible things and admits their existence. For the soul, rather than the mind, is the main thing in a human being. Not everything is comprehensible for the mind, but the truth is open for the soul, and there is nothing impossible for the soul in the truth. So, if someone asks what intelligence is, the answer should be as follows. Intelligence is an ability to analyze the knowledge gained by the soul in a proper way. The more correct the assessment is, and the more infallible the ability to distinguish the true from the false is, the higher is the intelligence. A man appeared before the court of heaven. "Who are you?" he was asked. "I am an extremely smart man," the man answered. "I have read more books than anyone else. All other people are rubbish compared to me." "I see you are not truly intelligent," said the judge. "For otherwise you would have known. You cannot praise something unimportant, which is called erudition, and call people rubbish in my presence. Your mind is a tool to enrich the soul, but I can see that you have used it in a wrong way. You beat a ruffle on a drum with a flute." The moral of the parable is as follows. Even not being brilliantly educated, you can become a favorite of heaven, and vice versa. The main thing is the soul, and the brain is only an instrument, playing necessary melodies for the soul. So it is very important to know what your soul loves. The brain is never smart. Intelligence is an ability to distinguish a right thought from wrong ones. But this ability is inherent to the soul rather than to the brain. Intelligence is a property of the soul, not of the brain. Yet, it would be truer to say, intelligence is a property of the soul to distinguish the true from the false, and wisdom is an ability to hear the Lord's voice in each true thought. So do not call intelligent people wise. Only those are wise who seek the Lord in heaven. Here is another parable about it. A narrow-minded man asked a broad-minded one, "What do I need to do to achieve this broad-mindedness?" "You need to turn your soul to heaven," was the answer. "You have turned everything upside down and mixed the top with the bottom." The narrow-minded man grinned. "No," the broad-minded man replied to him, "broad-mindedness is not at the bottom, but at the top, as there is no other wisdom but the wisdom of heavenly knowledge." The world seems too crowded for a petty soul. A great soul finds the world vast. A petty soul runs around, looking for new experiences again and again. A great soul is surprised with what it discovers little by little in a drop of water, in a small handful of soil, in a blade of grass. Wisdom is to comprehend the depth of the Lord, wondering at the perfection of each of His incarnated plans. And those who are open to the mindless absorption of new impressions do not look for wisdom, but have blind souls. Faith is an unquenchable thirst to see the light, to return to that knowledge that was open for the soul, but lost. And this knowledge is the light for it. Listen to your soul. If it feels comfortable in the dusk surrounding it,